All right, good to be back. We had a wondrous journey. We just got to spend a few days in retreat, went over the 8 verses, and got to visit our friends in Gaza at the Here Now Center. Hope you all are having a good night. And then off to Durango, where we spent time down there. And joy to spend one-on-one time with Aaron. I got to hang out with him in the car. Yeah, extra perk. And such a joy to see so many people engaging in the Dharma practice and cultivating, their highest potentials, trying to eliminate some suffering and improve the world they live in. Yeah, it's good to get out and about. So we had a good time. Got back yesterday, and it was a joyous effort, which was our topic of last week. Joyous effort. We're hearing the 6 perfections. Some people are still joining us, so always a recap. These 6 perfections or 6 paramitas, these are practices that are of a bodhisattva path. They are the path of a bodhisattva. Not simply, I want to be liberated, not simply, I want enlightenment, or that I don't want to suffer, that I'm really in this to help everybody, that I cannot have the thought that others suffer, and that I am engaged in this path for the benefit of all. And so these teachings are coming from that perspective. And that does not mean that they're not helpful if you want to have a better relationship with your spouse, if you want to be a better parent, if you want to just stop doing stupid stuff, And so I really love to approach these teachings from all layers of motivation. At the retreat, we always, that particular retreat we do twice a year. We always bill it, if you're not a Buddhist, if you've never done a retreat, it'll be helpful. If you are a Buddhist, that'll be helpful. As a matter of fact, we have some Christians come, it'll be helpful. But at the same time, to deliver a Buddhist teaching that if you're a Buddhist on a path of bodhisattva, it will be helpful. So, nothing gets watered down. There's a big difference between watering something down and taking a piece of wisdom that can be applied in different ways versus watering it down. So, that happens a lot. I've been listening to this teacher in a Theravada tradition, Analeo. God, he makes me feel so lazy. He's born the same year. He's my age. I'm glad I don't compare myself, because this guy's just off the chart. Like, went after meditation, just after it with his mind, went to Sri Lanka. He's ordained, he studied, he trained. And he's the kind of guy, 2 of his teachers were talking, and they're all thinking, it'd be a good idea for him to do a PhD program. And he's sitting there thinking, I want to do a PhD program. But your teachers are talking. It's funny, he explains it. In our tradition, you don't really have a lot of input. You're just kind of hearing it. You're hoping you'll get a chance later to have some opportunity to steer in your own direction. Yeah, needless to say, he did a PhD program and studied this vast canons in different languages and puts them all together, does his PhD. This book comes out. It's the Satipatthana, the Direct Path to Realization commentary. And, it's just this pristine offering to all of us, and which leads to the opportunity to got him interested in thinking about the differences between a Chinese middle course discourses, a Tibetan, the Pali, and just hundreds of texts, and where they're different, and why would they be different, and where they're the same, and there's so much the same, and what's the differences. So he goes and learns Chinese, and he goes and learns Tibetan, and then he studies all these hundreds of texts, And he compares them all. I mean, talk about, I'm just sitting there going, wow. And his interest is early Buddhism, like what the Buddha actually taught, and how that shows up in these different ways, and what can we glean from the early teachings and how it shaped itself in these different things. So here's a guy fluent in Tibetan, fluent in Chinese, fluent in Sanskrit and Pali. He's German and he speaks English. And he's my age. And he published like 300 papers on it. He goes, I apologize. I know it's way too much to all of you, but he published all these. He says, but I'm done now. I'm going to go meditate. So I've been, just hearing, I've been listening to him, and just this vast piece of wisdom that, just whenever he talks. And he gets asked various questions. And, one of them was, what's the primary, like this fundamental thing about Buddhism, or the singular aim. I just loved his answer. He said, I don't think you could say Buddha had a singular aim. He answered questions. Some people need to be better parents. Here's how you do that. Some people, need alleviation from this type of suffering. Well, here's how you do that. And that while obviously, there's this idea that there's the teaching of enlightenment, of no more suffering, of that path. He also taught, how to be a better human being right now, how to suffer less. He taught that in a variety of ways to a variety of people. And those are his aim, to eliminate suffering there. And I thought, wow, because that's very similar to this process, that you can use the authentic teachings to take you all the way to help lots of different situations in our lives. And we don't have to be on that to have some of these pieces of wisdom really help us, just suffer less right now. And, I find that valuable, and that's an approach I really appreciate. So those of you who are at the retreat, you'd hear me say, so if you're a human being, this might be a way it's helpful. If you are a Christian, it might be helpful this way. If you're a Buddhist, but it's the same teaching, but we can hear it in a different way. And I think that's really meaningful. So while this teaching on these 6 perfections, in other words, you don't have to have in your heart and mind right now that you're going to enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings. Some of you may not have that right now. It might be seen pretty far away and unobtainable. But I think we could probably have in our mind, I would like to suffer less, and I'd like others around me to suffer less. Or I'd like my life to be more meaningful. I can do that. And if my life's more meaningful, maybe the world's a little better place. And you're going to find these 6 perfections will help that. And, oftentimes seeds that get watered evolve in different ways. But the important thing is that we keep the teachings, and not say, well, I really don't like that. That doesn't resonate with me. Or this, in the sense of, there's certain beliefs I have, and now I'll look for things that fit that. Versus, here's these pith teachings that are helpful in a wide variety of ways, and I can use the ones that will help me on my path, depending on what my path is. You get the distinction there? Yeah. So we're trying not to water it down, not to just cherry pick, but rather to take these wondrous teachings and use the ones that work for us on the path we're on. What do you think that is? Heater? Not feedback, though. Okay. Spaceship. Okay, ghost. As long as it's not feedback, we're good. Ghost, spaceship, we're all right. But yeah. Ocean sounds. We'll do that meditation. Okay.
John, what do you have to say about certain teachings that perhaps at some point seem lofty or seem irrelevant? However, as we chew them, we find that they've actually some certain seeds have been planted in the past, and they've been watered and grow, and then maybe something that seemed lofty or irrelevant at one point can sometimes actually be extremely relevant, just with a slight shift in perspective or attitude, or maybe heavy-duty sickness in your life. All of a sudden, things kind of your relationship to the Dharma or a particular teaching can shift. Can you speak to that?
Well, do you want better? How about something that's lofty and seemingly impossible, but is still meaningful to incorporate anyway?
But you don't necessarily know.
You don't even think it could happen. Yeah, His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So when you talk about lofty ideals, right? I'm going to attain enlightenment for the welfare of all beings. That's pretty lofty. But like that's just the lead. That's the entry point to a bodhisattva. And there's these sort of three sort of bodhisattva mentalities. One is that I'm going to achieve enlightenment. I'm going for full Buddhahood, and then I'm going to help everyone. Okay, well, that's actually reasonable, right? That there's these paths to become a Buddha. It's been taught. People have done it. I was human. They were human. If I do this, that seems reasonable. If I become a Buddha, I'll be able to help others. So as lofty as that is, that actually seems fairly reasonable. But there's these two other ones that says, I'm not going to enter enlightenment until others are free. So that I'm going to develop myself, I'm going to develop all my qualities, I'm going to be right at that entry point of full liberation. But I am going to stick around until we can all cross that together, that we can all be free of suffering together. Possible? I don't know. His Holiness says it doesn't seem very likely. And then there's one further. I am going to help everyone get over there first. Everyone become free of suffering, and then I'll go. Now that's extremely lofty. And he said, even though those other two seem improbable at best, so they still could be very helpful for your mind. Because it's not whether or not you can do it that matters. It's cultivating the mind that would be willing to do that matters. Imagine how the mind that would have that kind of compassion. It could be really helpful right now. So even from the Dalai Lama saying, probably not, it's still useful. And the quote, and I use this at the retreat, it's one of the ones that I just find really beautiful. It's actually a Christian contemplative, Soren Kierkegaard, The Power of Prayer. And he says, this great quote, we don't pray to influence God. We pray to change the nature of the one who prays. We don't pray to influence God. We pray to change the nature of the one who prays. In other words, my mind changes when I pray. So holding like a prayer that may you be well, may you be happy, may someone who's struggling, in surgery, may they get well. Well, what's happening in my mind when I'm thinking about others? What's happening in my mind when I'm thinking about people who are suffering or really wishing the best for them, or that I find the strength to be helpful? The prayer of St. Francis, that really changes the nature of us. And so in that way, I think these lofty goals are extremely beneficial. But even more to your point, things that once will seem lofty seem very natural later. is the point I think you're making. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. And I think that, I mean, I have personal experience there, but one of the big things to the great advice, I think, is that there's no reason to shut the door on anything, right? There's no reason to engage, to prevent you from engaging in a Buddhist path if you don't believe in rebirth, right? But the mind that says it isn't, versus, well, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, why not? No, don't close doors. Don't close doors. When people say this is the way it is, well, check that. I read a Frank Zappa quote. Boy, we're getting all kinds of quotes today. He said the mind's like a parachute. It has to be open to function. It has to be open to function. Doesn't mean it's not discerning. It doesn't mean it doesn't note what's not working. But it means that, let's say someone doesn't know if there's life beyond this thing. Well, it takes just as much faith to believe there isn't. That's an act of faith. Who knows? I don't know. So what seems pretty improbable, why not leave the potential? Why not? Why not? And the way it works, I think, for me personally, as I've shared many times, is that when I first would go to teachings and my teacher would teach, I was, this is so not for me. Like, I'm never getting that, non-dual nature reality, impermanent. Yeah, come on. This is a table and I'm John. No way that made any sense to me. But I did realize that the teachings about being ethical and being a better human being was going to improve my life. So that's what I mean. I went to him. I went every week because I want to be a better human being. That's I figure I could do that. Maybe 20 lifetimes from now. I could get that other stuff. But what happens is as you engage in the path, as you cultivate things like our attention and we're more ethical and we create merit, the mind's now able to absorb and see things very differently. And teachings that once seemed very abstract, for me are much more natural now. They make sense. It's not even that difficult as much for many of the teachings. But it seemed like it, just totally impossible to me. So I think that's what you're talking about. So that's why it's so important to have a mind that is checking, it's discerning, it's open. And I have, we have evidence, right? I had evidence. I had a teacher in front of me who was like that. So I got to see this guy. It's fascinating. We'd do a study group on Friday nights. We did a study group. That's feedback. Totally feedback. That's not an alien.
Where they landed.
Coming to pick you back up.
I was about to make a point, trying to remember what it was. Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's switch your headset.
Oh, you think it's a headset?
Oh.
Maybe it's a pack. I'm feeling confident it's a pack. Let's see if that works. Probably if we had a battery. Oh, we do have batteries. They're just dead.
One of these wasn't working, I don't know.
Wow, that looks exciting. Okay. After a brief intermission, we return to the teaching. No commercials. Where you at? Oh, there you go. So it's also nice to think, well, are there people like this who've done these things, right? Are there people who seem pretty calm, kind of seem kind, don't get caught up in stuff? And, well, then maybe they could teach me how to not do that. And so my teacher, I was saying on, we finally got permission to do a study group on Friday nights. And we'd go through this book, and it's the blind leading the blind. We'd read this text, and we'd all talk about it. And then the deal was, if we had any questions, we'd write them down, and one of us would go up and ask him. So that was the deal. So we did on Friday night. He'd teach on Sunday, and before we got up to ask him questions, he'd open the teaching on Sunday, and he would pretty much answer all our questions. It was just like that every week. We had these questions, we'd write them down, and then before we ever got to ask him, he'd come out on Sunday and answer all of our questions. And he's not saying he's answering our question, he just would open the talk, and before he got to the talk, he would just go on a little sort of thing, and he'd clarify everything that we wondered about. This guy's just reading our minds, and but not making a deal out of it, not making a point of it. He's just, just casually. Yeah, it's so helpful to have, and you just have a little discourse. Then you go to the teaching. It's going, okay. There's that. And then when I'd take a walk with him, every being that he came in contact with, he'd look at him, he'd say hi, he'd wish him well, like every being, little animal, whatever. And what I got to see day to day, year after year, was this incredibly kind, compassionate being who, besides being able to read your mind, was kind and thoughtful and helpful and treated everybody the same and was concerned about whoever was in front of him. Even when he was transitioning in his later times in the hospital, he's making sure the nurses are okay and, checking with them, asking about their family. Did you have some tea yet? Maybe we'll have some tea, like with the nurses, and he's, theoretically in all this pain with cancer. And so you get to see people like that. And for me, then obviously it's easier to go, well, there are teachings and people who have, and then other students who had done things longer than me that, did pretty well. So you just kind of see that, I don't think I'd want to learn from someone who was angry and self-centered. You know what I mean? Like, I'd much rather learn from someone who's, well, okay, they've subdued some of the mental afflictions, and that's what they teach, how to subdue mental afflictions. That makes sense. So in that sense, having an open mind, but a discerning mind. And then sometimes things, you may have noticed that there's a lot of things that you know today and believe that 10 years ago you did not, right? We change. So we change, we learn more information, and we develop. So we don't know how far we'll develop, so keep that potential, why not? I mean, if other people have done it, why not us, I learned to be a morning person. It's not an easy feat. So before I then begin, anyone online have a question or anything that's come up as we enter here? I'll pause for a moment. If you do, just raise your hand, let Aaron know. I'll patch you in. So with these 6 perfections, we started with generosity. Okay, generosity just being an opportunity then to lessen our attachment. When we look at source, root of suffering, attachment's there. Right? It's hard to be angry, frustrated, resentful, insecure, whatever, if I'm not attached to something. And attachment here is always not just I like something or I desire something. It's that I've exaggerated the qualities of that thing, of that person, of myself, and it's going to add a whole projection onto something. This is not just a cup. This is my cup. It's one of my favorite cups. I know a couple of you've been looking at it. Or it's my grandmother gave me this cup. My grandmother gave me this cup. When I think of her, this cup takes a whole new meaning. And I might forget that my grandmother's love is not in the cup. It's in my heart. This cup breaks. I might have this big loss and forget that my grandmother's here, not there. Be these qualities, but enjoy it while I have it. It reminds me of my grandmother. Yeah, it's a nice cup. Drinking. I have a thermos that my brother-in-law gave me last time I saw him. He passed away shortly after that. Every time I use that thermos, I think of him. I don't think it's gonna break. It's a metal strong thing. Probably run over it with a car, but it's a nice feeling. But there's a difference between appreciating it and being attached to it. If I lose that thermos, And so this idea of attachment is, what if somebody needed a thermos? Well, I can give you a thermos, and that we can lessen that, that grasping, the clinging, whether it's my house, my car, my kids, my job, my cup, how many people have more resources than they could possibly spend? I'm not talking about suffering. How many people, have, I have a friend now going through a divorce, and the other person has tons of money, and has more money that's coming in, is hiding the money, maybe sign a prenup, right? And then even here still cheating to not do that when they have abundance of someone that you spent 16 years with, right? There's a lot of mental and emotional suffering going on there. Tens of Palms was talking about, someone in a similar situation. And they just said, heck, have them. It's not worth my suffering, and let it go. This one's not choosing to do that, but you can see where generosity could be this thing. What's really valuable to me? Are my needs met? And we do need our needs met. It doesn't mean give up beyond that. But understanding that money, others, and so forth, I can enjoy them more if I'm not attached to them. I can actually love someone if I'm not attached to them. They don't have claw marks down their back. I actually care and want the best for them. I can love someone if I'm not attached to them. If I'm attached to them, I start finding out that I don't so much love them. I love how they make me feel, how they make me feel when they act in ways that I like. And it's funny because when they don't act like I don't love them so much. So do I love them or do I love how they make me feel when they act in an appropriate way, which is happening here? Or do I really want the best for them? Or do I want them to act and train them appropriately to make me happy? It's a thing that gets confusing. Confusing a feeling of love with actual love. Because actual love is a willingness to extend yourself for another's, well-being. And that sometimes does not feel good. So generosity is this really wondrous practice. Be generous with my time. Be generous with my efforts. Being generous, could be money. But a lot of times it's attention. Most of the times it's attention. I mean, it's so hard to give someone your attention, isn't it? I mean, when you think about of all the things you want to give someone, when they take an extra 10 minutes to tell you something that only takes you two minutes, yeah. Oh my God, you are going to get there, right? Because I'm never getting these 10 minutes back. Wow, why is it so hard to listen to another human being share something that is important to them? Generosity of time is a really valuable gift. Generosity of attention, really incredible gift. And the gift is for us, not them. It really lets us lessen our grasping, our ego, our, I got better things to do. I. Instead of we. I'm part of something. It's nice when people listen to us. But, obviously we have something to say, right? So this generosity, I think that's the deal here. I get close to it. So that's going to help everything. Relationships, marriages, it lessens the core problem I have, which is attachment, generosity. And it doesn't mean stupid generosity. That's always the other thing. We need to make sure we have our needs met so we can have long-term generosity. That I'm healthy and well, I've got a house, I've got food, but I'll tell you what, once we have got our things met beyond that, oftentimes there's just a lot of suffering. Research just on happiness. Once your basic needs are met, this was done a while ago. So I'm quoting old stuff, but it was like the difference between like 50,000 a year, when that was sort of a pretty decent, you had a house, and 5 million, like there's no difference in your level of happiness, So all that money didn't change that. Once your basic needs are met, you can live and have food, clothing, job. That's kind of Maslow's hierarchy of needs there. So generosity becomes this opportunity. Well, I'm going to take good care of myself so I can, really be a good active participant with others in life instead of just hoarding more, Ethics. Want to suffer less? Be ethical. I gave a whole talk in Durango. I mean, that was the whole thing. We make things so complicated sometimes. But something's true or it's not true. Check it out. The source of all happiness, comes from wholesome behavior. The source of all mental and emotional suffering comes from unwholesome behavior. The more ethically I am, the more well-being I'll have. When I'm acting in a way I feel good about, I'm going to feel good about who I am. I'm going to suffer a lot less. It's nice that I can look people in the eye, not have something to hide, not worry about what lie I told you last time. And when I act unethically, I know about it. Yeah, going to suffer a lot. And that's just internally, let alone karmically. So generosity, ethics, both these really clear. Doesn't matter what your belief system is. They pan out or they don't. Generosity, ethics, patience. You know what? If there's any other teaching in the world that is more valuable, I don't know, than patience. It's the foundation of everything. Imagine if we could be okay being uncomfortable for how much better your life would be. What if I had patience with the people in my life? What if I had patience with myself? Yeah, try to be patient with yourself. We can't learn anything without patience. Imagine what it'd be like to not have a distracted, busy mind always looking for something. Just be patient. Well, let's see how it turns out. Patience allows you to respond to life instead of react. Patience allows us to actually know what we're doing. That same monk that I was talking about, he won't even write anything till he knows what he's going to write. Like, some people write stuff and they kind of refine it and they let it evolve. He meditates, he works everything out, and he won't write anything till he knows what he wants to write. And he writes it. I mean, that's really patient. But patience is the antidote to anger. You'll notice anger. What do they tell you to do when you get angry? Take a breath, take a walk, let it come down. Anger comes, anger goes. Strong emotions come and go. Patience. Perseverance is or fortitude. It's actually called fortitude. The ability to endure difficult events, emotions, experiences. What happens if we could just endure them? They may have, just a resentment that just lasted. I mean, like it will end. You'll be happy later, right? I can be resentful now, be angry now. I'll guarantee it won't last unless we bring it up again. But then we're re-triggering, but it doesn't last. Just, this will go, this will go. Fortitude. Wow, wouldn't that be a superpower? Yeah. So those are the first three. They're very practical. And then joyous effort, that's what we've been working on. We did like 2 or 3 weeks. Glad you were patient with me. It took me a while. and the idea there is that our lives don't change without some effort. We can talk about things, we can read books, we can do lots of things, but unless we apply them, if we don't put an effort in, it really won't work. There's a saying I use all the time: neurons that fire together wire together. So anything that I do consistently, habitually, those neurons, they'll start firing together and they'll wire together. So meditation becomes easier, patience becomes more. Like these things we're talking about, the more I bring them into my mind, things that used to seem unobtainable because my mind wasn't there, becomes more doable. Any skill, driving a stick shift, learn to play trumpet, whatever it is. If we do it a lot, it'll become more natural. Working on a factory line, that's something you gotta do it really fast. It's really hard. You do it 8 hours a day. You're not even thinking about it, and you put stuff together. So anything we do, it just wires together. I was at this retreat this weekend, and the doc, he was really interested in that statement, and so he looked it up. He goes, where's that come from? There's a second part to it. Neurons that fire together wire together. Neurons out of sync won't link. Neurons out of sync won't link. So all of these neurons that are out of sync, they're not going to link unless I start firing them together. So I want inner peace. I want well-being. I want all that. I'm not willing to put the effort in because, that's ridiculous because, I'm going to the hot springs. But I really want inner peace. I love a mind that was balanced and present right here. But, I don't want to like meditate. And they're like one of those biofeed caps or something you can give me. Or, I hear they're making some, neurons out of sync won't link. Wanting something to happen won't make it happen. You gotta link them. You gotta link them. So there's some effort there, and a lot of times, that effort is difficult. It's new. It's uncomfortable. And so we talked about a lot of ways to make that more meaningful, joyful, starting small, growing. Don't sit and try to do it all at once. Don't beat yourself up because you meditate. Don't beat yourself up because you lost your temper. Recognize about the opportunities that we have and put them in small increments and grow it. And recognize the benefits, recognize the value. So we went through that process. And at some point, it will start feeling better. So the teddy bear analogy of Tenzin Palma. Did I mention that here last week? I just did at the retreat. Anybody remember a teddy bear? You're at the retreat, so you don't count. Okay. Not that you don't count that way, but the memory is from the retreat. Yeah. You don't exist in the way I see you. That's what I meant.
Well, Mark said I was organic mess.
An organic mess?
Mess.
Mess.
I thought he said mess.
Wow, that's kind of harsh, man.
I said that.
So, what she talks about is our practice, rather than, it's like when we're kids and we have a teddy bear. We really like the teddy bear. The teddy comes with us everywhere, And so my old habits and my stuff, I carry those with me. And you don't try to just rip the teddy bear out of the kid, leave it at home. You're going to suck it up. But more naturally, as you grow older, as you engage in your practice, sometimes you start leaving the teddy bear at home. You don't have to bring it to dinner with you when your family goes out. You don't have to bring Teddy with you everywhere. That sometimes you leave Teddy at home, And then after a while, as you get older, as you just start having other interests. Other things become more interesting than Teddy. And that's how the practice, when it really, I think, a meaningful way of engaging the practice is not that I'm fighting it or forcing it or pushing it. It's that I keep engaging in it, and after a while, it becomes really interesting. My conversations are much more about this, organic hot messes instead of just going to the hot springs. And we have these conversations about meaning and purpose, and that becomes more interesting, And Teddy stays at home more. And then, going to meditate, something that I kind of look forward to a little bit. And setting up the night before with I have this little ritual. I get my coffee pot all made and I program it and I set the timer, I just think how cool it is. It'll be there when I come out, it's ready. And, just set all that up the night before. And then wake up and know that the coffee's ready for me. My face is ready, It's nice. And so to make our practice this joyful experience, really recognizing the rewards, we touched on a few things with that. But not to, be all hard on ourselves when we don't live up to a particular way. We're just hanging out with Teddy, man. That's all. And then we can put Teddy down tomorrow, maybe, do our practice. So having that opportunity, knowing that we're always becoming. And which brings us to our topic today, which is concentration. What's the other thing about effort? We talked about right effort. Again, I just don't want to miss the main point. Effort is having a mindfulness aware of unwholesome mental thoughts and attitudes that rob us of it, and to counteract those and to maintain wholesome ones. So part of joyous effort then is also this idea of remembering to maintain wholesome mental states and noticing when other ones get in their way. So there could be a lot of joy in that, thinking about the gift of today that will never come again. How do I want to live it? When I have a good interaction, saturate your mind with that. When I finish a meditation, before I just get off the cushion, take a moment and think, wow, how's my mind now? Before. Take a moment, reflect, I meditated. Hey, that's pretty good. Just soak it in. I did that. How's my mind? How's it work? And so with effort, our effort is to help us really protect our own mental and emotional states. And we deserve it. We deserve it. And that's going to help a lot with concentration, which is the next of the 6 immeasurables, or 6 perfections. 4 immeasurables, 6 perfections. We got lots of lists. All right. So again, I'll just pause, see if anyone has any questions or thoughts, including those of you online. Usually I can go long enough to only have a 10-minute teaching. Let's see. Okay, so mental stability. Wow, what would that be like? Whoa, just here's what I want to attend to. I'll just attend to that effortlessly. What would that be like to attend to? Be just fully present. I mean, that one of the descriptions, one of my teachers who has mental stability, the mind is so still, like as far as the awareness, the stillness of the awareness mind says, that it's like he's not moving if he's walking, but people are just going by him. You're like, wow, I mean, that's a stillness of awareness that's noticing the difference with every movement of the mind. And it's just so present in whatever you choose to attend to, with the stillness that's there, it's present. And this mental stability that can just, this is what I'm attending to, that's what I'll attend to. And the mind goes there. Instead of, like my mind, like, I bet you half the people in this room know what I'm thinking about right now.
Popcorn.
Yep.
Could be liquor.
No, popcorn. It was popcorn. Yeah. We had this popcorn this weekend. I mean, I'm not attached to anything. Cooked in avocado oil, brewer's yeast, a little bit of oregano and some salt.
About concentration.
Wait, I'm on popcorn. I'm focused.
I do have a good question about concentration.
Yeah, that's sucks. Okay.
And awareness.
Yeah.
And kind of a joyful, it kind of fits into a few of the paramitas. Awareness, joyful effort, and concentration. I've been struggling a little bit with exercise, like this kind of feeling torn that, okay, well, I'm exercising, but really I should be meditating. Kind of rub.
Mm-hmm.
And today was one of those experiences where there was a kind of like what you're talking about, where there was a sense where, as I was riding, pedaling, just on a quiet dirt road in the middle of nowhere. And there was that feeling that the road was kind of just moving under me. And there was a feeling, there was just this sound. I could hear this breathing, but it wasn't my breathing. It was just this breathing.
Yeah.
And there was an exertion of effort, but it was effortless effort. And there's this funny, I've asked other teachers before, and perhaps you can just speak to this. That is meditation, but it's not the formal seated meditation. And is there some sort of benefit over the physical stillness meditation with the mental stillness meditation versus a mental stillness meditation while the body's actually, from an outsider looking in, moving, albeit slowly uphill, but it's moving. But the mind is stable. The mind is still. Can you speak to the merit of one over the other?
Yeah, one's the result of the other. Because you sit in stillness and you can develop enough attention, you'll have the ability to maintain that attention in movement.
I didn't maintain it. That was the funny thing.
Well, no, but
It
that
just
okay. When you say you didn't,
right.
We'll get into who you are. But
right.
the awareness that was developed and the attention that was developed was able to be maintained. But you probably wouldn't get that level of stillness by going to ride your bike every day and trying to meditate.
I see.
Right?
You'd be thinking about what gear you're in, and I'm doing this because it's good for my leg.
Yeah, those neurons
that
balance, right?
It used to be, I'm doing this to be faster.
Yeah, even if you did it to meditate, you probably wouldn't achieve that level of stillness generally because you're moving. But when you're in stillness and you develop stillness, you can maintain that in movement. So the teachings on shamatha, calm body, which is this, are always taught, because the Buddha taught meditation in 4 postures, right?
Standing, seated, lying down,
and walking, movement.
Yeah.
You're walking, you're moving.
Yeah, you're right.
It's meditation. There's movement. And so those are different.
But cycling wasn't the 5th one.
Yeah.
Kayaking or skiing, maybe those are the 7th and 8th
Right,
ones.
yeah. Well, that's the
Those are the other lists.
Don't point out the fact there were no bikes. We're getting somewhere.
The X game list.
Yeah. But no, what they are is those are different meditations to achieve different things. Shamatha is taught laying down or seated in stillness to develop the stillness. Stillness of the body is conducive to the mind. But as we do that, then we develop a continuity of consciousness, a level of attending to, that we're able to maintain that when we're riding a bike or doing different things. And that's where, like when he was describing, that's because he spent, years away doing all that sitting. That in movement, it's no big deal. So that becomes a benefit and a valuable practice. Maintaining, that awareness of what I'm doing. That's I think one of the more challenging things for us to do is to maintain any level of awareness that we develop. Because we'll do our meditation, we'll be good, then I'm out the door, and then I'm caught up in all kinds of stuff. So maintaining that as much as possible, like what you're talking about. You practice seriously for long periods of time, and so it's a nice result. But now a practice. Yeah.
But it was funny because it almost felt like not as pure as the seated kind of. I mean, I've had my own struggles with actually really trying to truly enjoy the seated practice because, as Chogyam Trungpa said, meditation is just one insult after another. Just one thing coming at you, one judgment after another. And I can speak wholeheartedly that that's a challenge. However, the joyful concentration that I do experience from time to time, more and more, and even today, was it was blissful, very easy. And I was like, oh well, is that because I'm at high altitude, or my brain's deprived of oxygen, or it's a nice setting, or is this wholesome meditation?
Yeah.
And then wanting it, of course, to label it as wholesome or unwholesome, and all. That's a whole nother.
Yeah, and so just enjoy it, right?
Yeah, right. Do I ask your permission?
Oh, just enjoy it, man. That's what I'd be doing.
Yeah.
Hell, even if my mind wasn't that concentrated, I'd enjoy the bike ride.
Right. Thank you.
There was a comment. Striking a balance, pacing ourselves, knowing when to take a break. Those are all pith instructions of joyful effort. Knowing when to take a break, pacing ourselves, striking a balance. And the most important, I think, of all of these is don't get attached to results. Don't try to enjoy your meditation. Just meditate, follow directions. Abandon all hope and fear. Follow directions.
And be patient. Comes back to that patience.
Yeah. And what'll happen is if I'm not striving too much, these arise more of their own. Yeah. And the way to evaluate my meditation practice is, did I follow my directions? I didn't have a good one or a bad one. As long as I followed directions, nailed it. Then, how do I evaluate my practice? Okay, I've been doing this for a while. A few months from now, do I have less mental afflictions? Do I get angry less? Am I more present? That's how we evaluate our practice. But we evaluate our meditation session by following directions. Yeah, so just let go of all that. Good question.
Well put, well answered.
Thanks. All right. So we're just going to tap our, we're getting towards the end. We have potluck tonight. Clearly a lot of health food over there. You bought healthy cookies, right? Okay. What we're going to lay out, and we'll begin next week, is this idea of setting ourselves up to engage in a meditation practice that is not painful, that's rewarding, that I'll feel good about, and how to build a consistency to it. And there are some things that we can do that are often very helpful that we don't always think about. How we set up a place maybe to meditate, or how we set ourselves up for that. And one of the things, not one of these, many of the things will actually point to what I do off my cushion is going to help me on the cushion. That's a missed point. There's things I can do around my life that will help me be a better meditator and setting myself up to have, a little simpler life, fewer needs, things of that nature. Ethics, obviously, is one of those things. So how I engage mindfully off the cushion is going to be a significant impact when I meditate. How I meditate will help me off that as well. But it's really this much bigger array of how I'm living and how I set myself up to have a practice that will help me, be more stable, present, accessible to engaging in practice. Let us dedicate the merit and the wisdom that we've accumulated here today and throughout our lifetimes for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and find their liberation. May we be able to use the merit and wisdom accumulated here today throughout our lifetimes to purify our own minds, to help us apply these precious teachings in our own lives in whatever way and capacity that is most meaningful for us right now as we engage in our own path of awakening for the benefit of all sentient beings. And let us also dedicate this merit and wisdom for the long life of all spiritual teachers of all spiritual traditions who are authentically teaching a path of no more suffering. May they live long, may their teachings flourish, and may their students benefit.